This is Monocle on Design Extra. It's a short show to accompany our weekly programme where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and fashion. I'm Maylie Evans. On display at Gallery Fumi in London's Mayfair is Rooted, the first solo exhibition of British design duo James Plumb. It's a showcase that continues the designer's exploration of sculptural lighting pieces. Their latest collection, Copper Roots, incorporates salvaged material from their home, a renovated farmhouse in the Shropshire Hills. To find out more about the development process of Copper Roots and the wider evolution of this design studio, Monocle's Sana Jumani visited Gallery Fumi to meet Hannah Plumb and James Russell.
Copper Roots is an evolution of a previous series, Steel Roots, centred around candlelight, and the main forms were taken from steel rebar from deconstructed, demolished high-rises around London, and then we made these sort of modular candle-based chandeliers and so on. We've now evolved it to electric lights, very, very similar to the Steel Roots, but it's now with electric lights instead of candles.
And I read that you kind of very much wanted to keep that kind of essence of candlelight, but have kind of developed these bulbs. Can you talk a bit about what that process was like?
We were resistant for a long time to do an electric version. A lot of people love the Steel Root series and love the candlelight, but they wanted the relatively more convenience of electricity and so on, the permanence of electricity. For a long time we thought it, in our minds, wasn't possible. And it technically wasn't possible with the steel. We recently moved to Shropshire Hills, and part of the renovation process we were pulling old copper pipe out of one of the houses. We didn't realise initially, but...
and we didn't think about it at the time other than the removal of it.
Then a friend was helping us. Basically, we were sorting through all the copper and we were going to send it for recycling. And he just pulled it all out of one of the barns and had put it in the middle of our yard. And I think we were upstairs and looking down, and I thought that I'd actually pulled out a lot of the steel, that maybe I was somehow playing with the steel.
Or trying to think again to look at it, yeah.
And so we instantly realised we could make very similar shapes, but copper is an excellent conductor of electricity, and it's a tube, so we could pass wires through. So immediately the possibility seemed there.
It was a light bulb moment in that sense.
Then the actual technical side of developing it has been a lot of work. The things that we've custom made behind the scenes, there's a lot of very careful engineering to still make it possible. But then to your question about the bulbs, it was like, okay, we can electrify it, but now we need the quality of light. Initially, actually, we found some little tungsten bulbs, so traditional filament bulbs, that for us had the warmth, not being too bright. With the gallery, we were excited about the first piece that we made. And as soon as we went to sort of start sourcing more of the bulbs, we couldn't get them. These are being phased out. That's part of all the regulations. Energy efficiency, those kind of bulbs just aren't being made. We initially were a bit resistant to look at LEDs, because in the past LEDs were always too cold, but now these you can get a full range of colour. But we couldn't find an LED bulb like the tungsten one. We ended up finding a manufacturer and saying, can you make this shape of glass and size of glass, this size of filament, this colour temperature? It must be dimmable, because there wasn't something with all those parameters on the market. And we found a manufacturer who said, yeah, we can make that for you. And after lots of tests and samples back and forward, we got to a bulb that we're, as far as we know, is unique. Even though hopefully it just looks like something very simple, but there's a lot of very subtle specifications.
Copper Roots was inspired by pipework that you found during a renovation of your farmhouse in Shropshire. And so there's a focus in this body of work both on restoring found objects and also using raw materials to create something that's entirely new. What has inspired you to merge these two approaches?
I guess it's something that's been underlying in our practice for many years. We tend to, a lot of the time, respond to things around us, things we see, objects that already exist and have a bit of a story to tell.
Yeah, it's difficult to say where it comes from, but I think it's present in a lot of our work. As Hannah said, there's nearly always the starting point is a response to things that already exist. Usually things with a story, things that are broken or have a lot of history and patina.
Or show time.
Show time, yeah. We often think more and more that if there's one material that we work with, it's time. Often a lot of our work is then about somehow framing that or setting it apart to show what it is about those materials that we find beautiful.
Yeah, reframing them, I think.
That's often where the new materials come in as perhaps as a contrast or a framing device, or creating space for the starting object to just breathe. I think if we only worked with found objects, there wouldn't be the variety and the contrast and the juxtapositions. It's not a conscious thing that we think, let's make sure we mix something new with old, but it seems to be the way.
The wall sconces that we've made, we just wanted a really simple way that they fix to the wall, but we also wanted them to move, to be articulated. And I actually, at the farm, I remember looking this mechanism, which is made new now and is actually really technical inside, so that the light can move with the electrical cables inside. That was partly inspired by an old farm hinge on one of the gates. So yeah, I think we're forever looking at how things work, and we haven't made an exact replica of that hinge, if that makes sense. But it was like, it's simple, it's these two parts.
What kind of world did you set out to create in this exhibition here at Gallery Fumi? What do you hope that visitors will take away from these works and from learning about your approach to making?
I think our world is overlit and is too bright sometimes, and of course we all need light and need to function, but I think sometimes you can't beat candlelight, and this is almost the next best thing. Not that we all have to live by candlelight, but I think we underestimate our eyes sometimes, and that actually we don't need a huge amount of light to function.
If we want to call it the exhibition design, we were keen to show that we think these works are quite versatile, in the sense that we were really excited to present them in Gallery Fumi's white cube space and to really show off the simplicity of the forms. But we also knew we wanted to, again, frame them and bring in some backdrops to just create some little mini scenes within the space. And so we serendipitously came across some old lorry sidings, and we've had almost as many questions about what these textile drapes are in the exhibition as the works themselves. But we like that, hopefully that also shows how the works can work beautifully in interiors, in kind of very warm, inviting, low-lit, welcoming, the kind of space that just holds you. The quality of the light is not a sort of manifesto for candlelight, but I think it helps you slow down. It just makes you take a bit of a pause with lower light.
James Russell and Hannah Plumb there, in conversation with Monocle's Sana Jumani. Rooted is on show at Gallery Fumi until the 25th of January 2025. That's all for this week, but if you're eager for more design stories, then listen to our main programme, Monocle on Design, that airs on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. London time. Or if you prefer print, do pick up a copy of Monocle magazine. Our November issue is a design special, I might add. You can find that on all good newsstands now. Today's episode was produced and edited by me, Maylie Evans, with help from Elliot Greenfield. Thank you very much for listening.